great to see such a high numbers. As Volodymyr said, I'm supporting the project on behalf of Habitat for Humanity, which is a organization focused on development work, international development, especially in the area of affordable housing. The organization is also present in Ukraine, among other countries. And I also hope to arrange a few more meetings among the organization and participants here to talk more about our activities. But I'm here today to tell you a little bit more about smarter finance for EU project in general before we jump into today's topic. And sorry for the to the interpreters, I should slow down. Smarter Finance for EU is a live-funded project funded by the European Commission, a 2-year project which started in May. It's a follow-up of a previous project, Smarter Finance for Families. This previous initiative was established in 2019. And brought together more than 17 organizations from 12 European countries. Now in the follow-up, we even increased these numbers up to some 23 organizations. And the goal of this project is green certification and green mortgages. We try to secure financial institutions and developers of residential housing to create and launch a co-designed green mortgage product for new property acquisition. So in a more simple words, Smarter Finance for the EU is a project which is trying to be a link between the banks and developers, bringing these entities together, sharing the know-how of organizations in our consortium, which is mostly focused on green certification, green housing, different kinds of technical solutions for highly energy efficient green housing. And thanks to this know-how, we try to make the banks and developers to agree and design new types of financial products which could be used to finance green housing, and which could be also which could give the citizens better options when trying to finance their own housing. And now about these courses are part of a smaller initiative within Smarter Finance for the EU focused on affordable housing. So we try to support developers of green housing for vulnerable families, refugees, IDPs, people who do need assistance with their housing. And as a part of these activities, we try to support municipalities interested in affordable housing and allow their staff to learn a little bit more about different kinds of green solutions. And I should say that these courses are just the beginning. We are planning to have in total 8 courses. If you manage to participate in all of them, you should receive a certificate of passing from Smarter Finance for the EU. But as a follow-up of these courses, we are also hoping to have maybe more individual conversations and more activities with interested municipalities, NGOs and other types of organizations working in Ukraine on the recovery and green housing. And maybe for this, I would give word again to Volodymyr, just a little bit, so he can also tell you a little bit more about his organization. His organization is representing Smarter Finance for the EU in Ukraine, and will be also leading the following activities focused on this issue, on support for developers of green housing for vulnerable families. So Volodymyr, if you could also tell us a little bit more about your upcoming plans.
Thank you, Eva, for sure. I will also say some words, welcome words on behalf of Association Energy Efficient Cities of Ukraine, which I present. Most of our participants has joined to this meeting, to these courses, by the invitation of Association Energy Efficient Cities of Ukraine. So you are representing the municipalities and institutions which are working directly with the association. And why you are here? That's because you are interested in different sustainable policies, sustainable technologies, which includes green building topic. And our courses, this is the second course which we have this year. We will have more. It will be also 4 courses, 3 of which will be already scheduled for November, and 1 will be in December. So on these courses, our main goal as a project, as an association, as our working package of a smarter project, we expect to rise the level of your competence in the field of green building. Why? Because green building is the very important topic in the field of sustainable energy in Europe and in Ukraine. So rising your competence in this field, we as an association expect to have the numbers of competent people in Ukraine, which will help to change our country, to change the face of our residential house sector, our public building sector, make it more green, and change our country to the best. So today we will have our trainer. It's Dorin Beu. He is the trainer in the field of lighting in the building. So I'm giving the floor to Dorin to introduce himself and start our meeting. So wish everyone good work and good new knowledges. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Eva. Thank you, Volodymyr. I hope you hear me. Well, first of all, my deepest admiration for what you are doing in Ukraine. I'm not very good in speaking non-technical, but I wanted to start with this because in the last 3 weeks, I thought a lot about what should I speak about lighting for people from Ukraine. And this is not easy. But let me wrap up with what Elena Richtey has talked with you. Let me see if it's going. Now, next. That's okay. So I will start with a question. What's the difference between green buildings and energy efficient buildings? That's a question for everyone, because if you understand that will help me a lot with my presentation, because that's usually the toughest question, because there's a difference. And someone wants to have an idea or write me down something, because let's have it as a discussion. Because I can talk for hours. That's one of the problems with trainers. They can talk hours, but it's difficult if you're not having a conversation and see what people expectation. Let's start with an example. You will do new schools. In the next years, based on experience from all East Europe, a lot of schools need to be redone. And there's a question, how you should start a project, which is a school. We'll talk later about lighting in school. We'll talk about future, but let's see how you start a project, because this is very important. Because you shouldn't start a project only by talking to an architect and then ordering a project and having a tender for architecture, and that's it. Because the whole idea with green buildings is that you have an overall view of the building. It's not only the building, it's a lot about health, it's about biodiversity, it's about the materials that are used in that space. So these are the steps. So first, it's program planning and site selection. So first, you need to have some environmental performance. First of all, you need to decide to have a green building with everything what means a green building. And then you look for funding opportunities. I'm sure that there will be a lot of funding opportunities starting from photovoltaic solutions to heat pumps or everything like that. Then reuse existing buildings. It's not a good solution just to tear down a building and to build a new one. Sometimes it's cheaper, but reusing means keeping local history, keeping the resources, and that's very important to reuse existing building. And also to source salvage materials. I've seen this in all East Europe. People, when they build something, they want everything to be brand new, but not everything has to. There are a lot of existing materials, like existing doors, which usually are done very well and then can be reused, repurposed, also furniture or, well, so try to use a lot of salvage materials, because this is important. This gives character to a building and also save a lot of money. And select appropriate land. It's also important because not every land, first of all, encourage brown development. What is brown development? A place where already existed buildings. Not go on the greenest place on the city, because sometimes there's a temptation to go on a green land, on agricultural land, because it's free. But this is not very good for nature, for biodiversity. And there's already a lot of brown developments. That means existing factory or former factory, which are derelict now. So next step, okay, let's see. That's an example about reusing materials, and it's in Brussels. It's the European Commission, and it's an example where you can reuse existing materials. There's a lot of windows from schools from all over Belgium that are already used for these buildings. And why I use this example? Because it's European Commission, and European Commission usually with every existing buildings want to send an example, which it's good to be followed. So then selection of a design team, always try to find a design team with experience, local architects, local people that, especially young teams, which are interested in green or sustainability or any other aspects like that. So because you will need at the end a very large professional team. And also this team will tell you if your future building, how well it will perform from the point of view of sustainability. Will you have a LEED Platinum or LEED Gold or BREEAM Excellent or other system for assessing a building? And then think about site design, about ecological integrity, and also you will want to avoid disturbance to water system. That is very important. And also think about landscape. Because, for instance, in a school, you will need a lot of green spaces, but not a lawn. Lawn, it's not typical for this area. It's okay in England, where it's rain twice a day. But usually in our part of the world, you need a lot of water in order to keep it green. So use local plants, which survive excellent in your place, and not trying to have some exotic plants or which will not last during winters. Also think about heat islands, because we have this issue inside the city. And any building which is black on the top creates this heat island. So use usually white membranes, or even better, a green roof. And then think about alternative transport. That means bicycle, scooter, or for instance, for a green building, it's so important to have public transport nearby. If you will have a school, you'll need definitely public transport to give the opportunity to people to go by bus to the school. So that's one of the difference between a very energy efficient building, which consume quite a few energy, and a green one. When you think about a green one, you need to think also to transport, because it can be a very energy efficient building, but it's in the middle of nowhere, so people spend a lot of time and fuel to get there. So think about that. Building orientation and configuration. And at this moment, you start thinking about the architecture of the building. How will enhance the use of solar passive design and things like that. That's very important, because you will want to use as less energy as possible. And then this is the typical stage for any building to think about energy structure, envelope, lighting. It's appearing for the first time. And then the last part, reduce internal loads. Yeah, and think about indoor air which is free of pollution. There's a tendency to use a lot of palm laminate as a furniture, but this comes with a problem. A lot of formaldehyde, which create problems as VOC. VOC is volatile organic components. So anytime think about this, and also think about all the waste materials that will be produced by any building. According to EU, 19% of the materials used for a construction becomes waste. So, and no one can afford so much waste. So think about it. So at the end, as a conclusion, is using less stuff. So whenever you're thinking about the building, first thing you will, do you really need that building? Do you need to be as big? Because there is usually a tendency for any mayor to have big buildings, big offices for city council, big schools and so on. But doesn't it need to be so big? So build less, it's one of the first steps, and then build clever. Use clever solution and build efficiently. Prefabricating solution are usually an efficient way of building, and also minimize waste. That's very important. And then, of course, specify low carbon. But first thing first, it's think about using less stuff. So that was just as a beginning, because I used to be for 4 years also the president of Romania Green Building Council. That was after Steve Bonkamp, an American who introduced RoGBC in Romania, and that was an important step because it made us think differently. Because the classical way of doing especially in the Romania construction sector, was only the price was important. The rest was no importance. So now we have found that sometimes if, for instance, we don't build schools and we have schools only in the middle of the city. So what happens every morning? All the parents bring their kids to the school. As a result, there is a problem with the traffic. So now we start building in all the districts, but it's not easy, and it takes time. And after 30 years, we start thinking more holistic to see everything which is related to a building. That's the reason why we are now working together with your association to the system which is called European Energy Awards, which we are thinking as a city as a whole. And that's create a whole big difference. But first I start with a plea for lighting. And why a plea for lighting? Because I would start with the idea why it's so important lighting. Let's start with the advertising. Everybody thinks that LED is the solution for everything in lighting. So we got a lot of advertising saying it's a very good luminaire, very cheap. It costs, this is the equivalent of 17 euro. It's not so expensive, but is it a good luminaire? Because every time someone comes with an LED solution, you need to think, okay, is it a good one? Because there are good LEDs, there are bad LEDs, and that's a problem. First of all, think that lighting with LED has a problem in color rendering. Not everywhere that's a real problem. For instance, LEDs they are not very good with red. If you have something red, LEDs are not the best solution. Okay, this is important for an art gallery, for hospitals, but in a school, I don't think it's so important. It's important when you're doing your makeup as a lady, but yeah. Another issue, we have an efficacy from 1 watt energy. How much light will you get? For instance, for this luminaire, you get 80 lumen for 1 watt. But you have to think that for the newest generation of LED, we can have the double of efficacy. So what will be your solution? Buying a cheap one, which is not so efficient, or spend more money for having the best efficiency, but probably it will cost also twice. It's usually the difficult question. Also, no mention about power factor for electrician. That's an issue. What about life expectancy? Everybody think an LED have a very long life. It's something like 100,000 hours, but not all LEDs have this life expectancy. I'm thinking, for instance, that in a house you're using for 1,000 hours. That means for 100 years that LED can function. Well, in fact, they don't last so long. Now we start finding that sometimes you're buying an LED lamp and sometimes it's lasts only 1 or 2 years. Well, also there is an issue with glare. Yeah, unified glare ratio. But this is important, especially in a school, because if you're not specifying luminaires with low UGR, you will create issues with glare. So people from lighting industry are usually quite enthusiastic about what they are doing. So Thomas Alva Edison, who invented the incandescent lamp more than 100 years ago, have this quote, "I haven't worked a single day, it was pure pleasure." I wish I could say the same thing at the end of my professional life, but yeah, still I have to work from time to time. But there is also an excellent connection between architecture and lighting, because when we are talking about architecture, Jean Nouvel mentioned this on in a project in France, saying architecture is a mixture of nostalgia and extreme anticipation. And in the case of lighting, there is a lot of nostalgia. But also the question is how in the earth Romans can do so well natural lighting. Thinking of the Pantheon in Rome, on your left, on your right screen, it's the Pantheon in Rome. And this Pantheon has an oculus, so an opening which is round, it's about 9-meter diameter, and it creates a lot of lighting inside that building. So you don't need electric lighting. Still, there's some electric lighting because now all the kings of Italy are buried there and they put some architectural lighting. But they knew so well to work with natural lighting. And sometimes I have the feeling that we forgot how to use natural lighting. And natural lighting, it's free. Well, not exactly free, because now you need a lot of intelligent system, windows, and the Windows Velux system are not exactly cheap. Also, lighting, it's a question of status. As I used to work a lot of architects, when I enter into an architect office, I'm always looking to lighting, because lighting's got to do a lot with status, how much money you have, how much, what's your taste. And that was always, including during Roman times, if you were rich, you're using a bronze candle. But for the others, there were some oil lamps which were extremely cheap. And that was the big advantage of the Roman Empire, which set the first democratization of the artificial light. This kind of lamps go only with olive oil. So if you find this kind of lamps in the former colonies, Greek colonies in Ukraine, that means they had also olive oils coming from Greece, which was extremely important. And sometimes they were produced in other countries like Tunis, and you can find it in other countries as a sort of import material. Also, there's always a nostalgia when it comes to the lamps used for a city. Sometimes city use old shape of luminaires because there's a lot of nostalgia. There's some cities from Romania where they using the same type of luminaire that was used 100 years ago in the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Well, it's a sort of nostalgia. You're using this kind of luminaires. But sometimes you go for extreme anticipation. And that's also the beauty of lighting, because sometimes you have a lot of design involved in luminaires. Like, for instance, this model from Denmark, which was made in 1958. Paulsen, who's producing these luminaires from 1958, and still now they have a version, silver version, golden version. Okay, that's sometimes a little bit extreme, but still it's a sort of extreme anticipation, and a lot of designers work in this area. And that makes also the beauty of lighting, because you can have very nice luminaires, sometimes with very cheap materials, like this Ingo Maurer, which was using extremely, how to say, arte povera, which means art made from very cheap materials, like from broken glasses or plates. He had made an extraordinary chandelier. But sometimes it can be also innovative. Why? Because they are using new solutions which were not possible with former solution. For instance, this is a chandeliers made with LEDs, and on these LEDs they have glue dandelion seeds. Dandelion seeds, well, that was not possible before because the temperature of an incandescent lamp is 300 degrees. You're gluing something and it's setting fire instantly, not instantly. After 1 minute, it will be set on fire. Now you can do this with LEDs. Or sometimes architectural lighting, it's a little bit too much. For instance, in the 2000, it was something normal to have color lights. Well, now I'm more skeptical about color lights, which is a technical prowess 20 years ago, but not anymore. I mean, you can have color light, but you have to put in mind what's the purpose of this. Because sometimes people are using inside their home. Because there's a lot of advertising, you can have color changing lamps. But what for? Because the natural light is a white light. You don't have blue light or red light, rare when you have aurora borealis, but this is okay for 1 minute, but not for the whole night. And I tell you, you won't like to have it in your living room and see your kids being green on face. That's not something very pleasant. Okay, but sometimes architectural lighting don't need to be expensive, because one of my problems is that sometimes green buildings is supported by a lot of companies which are trying to sell very expensive products which are state-of-the-art, and it doesn't have to be expensive. Sometimes you need to be innovative or creative. For instance, this is the lighting made in the Netherlands for a bridge. And the question is how they made this lighting. And there's zero inner energy involved because they use some retroreflective bands which are glued to the buildings on the bridge. And when you're coming with your car, it reflects the light. So it can be easy, simple, and not something expensive. And always thinking about green buildings, usually you need to use local materials as much as possible. It doesn't have to come from the other side of the world, some very expensive material in order to be really green. Green means local. You encourage local companies, you work with local people, and use more brain than money. This is also important when it comes to green buildings, or at least it's the way I see it. Okay, coming to light, it's always a discussion, especially for cities, about how much lighting you will use for the city. Okay, when you're talking with a lighting company, they will tell you city beautification is so important and it will bring a lot of money to the city and blah, blah, blah. And there is always a discussion. That doesn't mean you don't have to put light, but you have to, again, to think smart. That's why I encourage you to have a sort of lighting master plan, saying what is important for the city to be lit. And even if it's lit, do you need all night? You can stop it usually around midnight, because after midnight, nobody will look at the church or the monument or anything, because there will be only a few people on the streets and probably they are not too much interested in lighting. Okay, that I will skip. It's always important to have specialized people in lighting. So that's why I have created in 2013 a new profession in Romania, which is lighting specialist. Even if you don't have a lighting specialist as a diploma, use people which are trained in lighting. I'm sure there are a lot of in Ukraine, and use them, because using professional, using is help you spare a lot of money and having the best solution. And also, it's, if I'm having a plea for lighting, I'm also having a plea for dark sky, because this is one of the problems that we are facing now. It's too much light during night. Okay. But also thinking about Ukraine, I'm sure there are a lot of people now working underground, because probably for army and for some people it's more safe to live underground. But there is an issue. For instance, if you're working and not getting into daylight, you have a problem with the circadian rhythm. So we just found around 2000 that there's a circadian rhythm. That's a day-night cycle. That means you need a lot of daylight and light during day, and to be as dark as possible during night, because it's the way it works our body for thousands and thousands of years. And we didn't know how exactly it works till in 1990, someone find that in our eyes, we don't have only rods and cones, we have also what it's called now, very long name, hyper-RGC, which is a ganglion very sensitive to daylight. So it sends a message to the brain. So that's why now we are talking about avoiding light pollution and the importance of seeing the sky, because sometimes we see this light pollution even from satellite. And in a way, think that you are still happy that you have dark sky in Ukraine, because in many countries people are going for hundreds of kilometers for seeing a bright sky during night, which is quite rare. The surfaces with red, it's with a lot of light pollution. You can think that that's Paris, London, Milano. But well, that's it. This is the basic of green lighting, because we have suffered in a way historical change, because 100 years ago human rhythm was based on natural light. So most of people were working in rural areas. They were working a lot into the land, and then whenever it was dark, they were coming into their home and they were going to sleep. So a lot of work outside, sometimes even siesta, which now it's found to be very healthy. And all the energy and the materials they were using for the housing was renewable. What we are talking now, it's in a way already invented or existed 100 or 150 years ago, depends on West or East Europe. But now we have a theory about the city that never sleeps and the 24-hour rhythm. And there's for instance, for people from the left, there was not conceivable to stay in a room and not doing anything, not like we are doing now. I mean, just staying in front of a screen, just listening to someone talking, that was inconceivable 100 years ago. But this is the built environment, and the lighting level that we experience now inside the building, it's very low. For instance, here it's about 200 lux. Outside, it's 20,000 lux. So, woo, that's 100 times more light. So there's a big difference. And if you're going into a club, there will be a lot of blue light. And why they are using blue light? Because that will keep you awake. So in theory, if you're putting a lot of blue light to someone, he will keep them awake. But this is not natural solution. So the problem is we need to restore the balance. It's the essence of green building, to restore this balance that has changed or shifted in the last 100 years. And for instance, now you have probably greenhouses also in Ukraine. And in greenhouses, they just found that if you're using blue light, you're killing a lot of Drosophila melanogaster, which is a small insect in every shape if it's a blue light, because blue light, we just found out there's an issue with the blue light. And then in 2000, we found that blue light made us, we are very sensitive to blue light because it stopped the secretion of melatonin. And what is melatonin? It's a hormone that we are normally secreting during night. So in the evening, you go home, it's already dark outside, and you're just putting you into a chair to look at TV, and then you feel sleepy. And why you feel sleepy? Because you start secreting this melatonin. And melatonin, it's a hormone which gives you this feeling of sleep, and that's why you're sleeping during night. Because think about a simple idea. Why are you sleeping during night? Think that it's only in the last 20 years that we found why we are sleeping during night, and what's the connection between the sensor into our eye and what's the signal that it sends to the suprachiasmatic nucleus. Well, and what's the connection with our health. And what's one of the problems of melatonin? It's a hormone which kills the cancerous cells. So that gives a problem now, because now we have circadian photobiology, which it's the way that our body has an internal clock. And that's eternal clock, which says to the body, it's morning, it's night, it's connected to the natural light. So you can avoid staying outside or not being connected to the daylight, because this is one of the problems of speleologists, people which go into caves. You cannot stay in a cave more than 3 days. Why? Because your circadian rhythm is stressed, and after 3 days you have problems. You don't know if is it morning, is it night. Your whole body is messed up, and you start feeling not well. And there's a lot of also some psychological issues. So lately they do not allow more than 3 days in a cave, because that's create a lot of problems. So that's what I'm thinking about people who are working in bunkers, army bunkers, that from time to time they need to reset their clock, because it's so important to have this reconnection with nature. Also seeing the nature, the view outside, the importance of a window, the daylight, why we need daylight, because it reconnects us with the nature. And what we see outside, it's also important, because we need to see a tree, a piece of green land, something like that, because that was also the way we are used to be all the time, and that's our connection with nature. Think about that, because that's so important. And as I've seen in Kharkov, there are some schools, they are having classes into the subway station. And you cannot stay too much into subterranean spaces, because then it creates problems or a health issue. There are also findings saying that if you are working during night, so the night shift, there is an increased risk for cancer. Yeah, so breast cancer for ladies and prostate cancer for men. So this is one of the issues when you're working during night, because working during night, it's not natural for humans. As humans, we are used to work during day. Whenever you are getting out of a building, that's the typical view on the sky. You're looking to the sky, and people are telling this is from all times, because it was important to see how the weather is, or if it's if you have the chance to get safe during day. We never walk into a wood without a weapon during night. Okay, so that's more a plea for the importance of good daylight and good darkness during the day. So this is the circadian rhythm, and try to use as more the time you're using outside, because we are used to work a lot into the building, and this is not natural for humans. Okay, you'll find a lot of presentation about melatonin and circadian rhythm, and also about how to do architectural lighting. For instance, it was an exercise in Sibiu so the city council notice there is a nice building. And how you do it, if you're looking closer to the image, you'll see people with flashlights lighting a building, just a former protest as to say that, look, there's a nice building, you should do something with this building. So it doesn't mean you need to light it up for the whole day. It's just simply that you need to go and do something with that building. Okay. And sometimes with architectural lighting, it's like with the makeup. You don't need to use a lot of makeup, just use it where it's really necessary. This is also important. Also, it's a lot of importance about green lighting and green buildings. On sustainable side, it's important to show that you're not creating light pollution. So the light from your building doesn't go to your neighbor. This is extremely important. So avoid light pollution, especially to your neighbors. You don't need to put a lot of light, especially light from upwards. A lot of recessed luminaires which gives light upwards. That's a waste of light. And then about energy and atmosphere, this is important, but also materials. And what kind of materials are your luminaires? Is it materials which create problem for nature or not? And what kind of resources? Can it be recycled? Because think about what happens in the last years, a lot of LEDs, and the result, you have now thousands and thousands of public lighting luminaires, which goes to waste, or at least to recycle. That will be excellent, but not always. Okay, but one day there will be a new material for lighting, and then all the LEDs will go to waste. Also think about comfort and quality and about innovation. But sometimes innovation means how to use as much daylight as possible. But it's not easy to have, they're just saying, well, we will have huge windows, we'll have a lot of daylight, and that's the solution, because big windows come with big problems, especially as a passive solar. I mean, it's excellent during winter, where you can have more heat from as solar gain, but it's a huge problem for during summer. And yeah, so always think about the fact that you need to have this holistic view, not a simplistic solution like huge windows. Huge windows can be a disaster when it comes to thermal insulation during night. Okay. Yeah. Also think about lighting waste collecting, because you will replace a lot of fluorescent lamp and a lot of high pressure sodium, mercury lamps. And there's an issue because all these old lamps contain mercury. And you cannot just simply throw it and say, okay, it will get to the landfills, because all this mercury will get into the water, and then that's a huge problem, how to separate mercury, which is a toxic material. If you're drinking water with mercury, that's a huge problem. Okay, so also the fact that, okay, you can have sometimes plants inside the building, but it's not the best solution, but it's one of the possible solutions. It changed everything with the LEDs. Why? Plants don't need white light. They need a combination of blue light and red light. So that's also a problem now for police, because now you can grow too easily cannabis and all these kind of plants with the energy efficient solution. I'm not pleading for this solution, sorry, but this is sometimes new discoveries create new problems, including for police. Yeah, but for small plants, that's okay. You can grow it inside, but for the moment it costs too much money, and I will not encourage to use this solution. Okay, and also think that there are people which are not very happy with artificial light at night. We had a conference in Romania, and again, it's a question of balance. How much light are you gonna use inside the city? Where it's important and where it's not important. And architectural lighting, it's well, it's important in some cases, but if you have tourists and also during evening, but not after 10 o'clock or 12 o'clock, because it creates only light pollution. Okay, let me look at the chat. Okay, did I miss something? Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah, please.
Since you presented, my name is Danut Stanciu. I'm president of NGO Involved for the Future. So we mostly try to reduce the consume of the humanity in order to save some resources for the rest of the people and for the planet itself. You presented some images from different states and cities in the world. Is there any possibility in order to reduce the energy consumption and the pollution by the light during the night to switch off the entire system, which is not primarily needed in cities, so the public illumination?
Yeah, the public lighting. Well,
lighting is.
Okay. In some countries, there are laws against light pollution. There's one in France saying that you should switch off architectural lighting after 12 o'clock in the night, so after midnight. Also the shop windows and also the office lighting.
But this is for the
public lighting.
Yes, this is for the privates. But public lighting, you know, if on my street there is nobody to walk or to drive on that street.
I will tell you what's the issue. Okay, the solution usually is to reduce or dim the lights to 50%. That's what we are doing in Cluj, to reduce to 50%. Well, but then lighting it's needed for safety. So if you're in a street or in a park and the lights switch off suddenly, that's a moment of panic, and that's not encourage people, especially during winter, to go outside. So in a way, you want to encourage them to go for a walk during evening. In some countries, like in Scandinavian countries, they are switching off the lights. In Sweden, but in some areas. But there's always an issue with the police, because the risk is that that can encourage people to do theft or some kind of criminal acts.
To be more specific, is there the possibility to attach light sensors in order to switch on the light only in case there is somebody, people, I mean, because it's safety of people, right? It's not safety of animals or whatever.
No, it doesn't. Animals see perfectly during, yeah. That's
so light switchers, like sensors, is
yeah. For instance, we are using luminaires with motion detection.
Yes.
For crossing, for pedestrian crossing. So whenever it's a pedestrian coming close to this crossing, it's a sensor and the lights, but not totally switch off. They are dimmed, something like 40% dimmed, and then if somebody is coming close to the pedestrian crossing, they switch to 100%. So it's a way to say to the driver, somebody is getting closer to this crossing. There are solutions, but it's one thing, it's the price of the sensor, then it's the quality of the sensor, because you probably notice that in some cases, like in toilets, you have sensors, movement detector, and sometimes they are not working. And I give you the example of a parking lot. You left your car in a parking area, which is a building, and then you have these sensors. If the sensors are not working and it's dark, especially for women, it's really scary to be on a place which is really dark. And sometimes you're afraid. And now what we found, it's the best solution. It's to dim it and to keep it to 20 or 30%. So at least you have some ambient light just to see there's no one in the parking, because there were too many movies, scary movies with attacks on a parking lot. So it's a very good question.
Thank you.
On the other hand, that's the human response. It's also the fact that when it's public lighting, you don't need light from behind people, you need light to see the face of the people. Whenever you meet someone, you want to see their face, because their face can express, are they friendly people or it's an angry people, or I want to avoid these people, especially when you're alone in a street and you're a lady. You want to see the face of the people which are on the same street, because there's a safety distance which is 10 meters. At 10 meters you can see the face, and you want to see, do I need to cross on the other sidewalk or avoid these people? Yeah. Well,
if you do that, you are in danger anyway. So
yeah, but that's human response. Yeah. On the other hand, I must tell you that for the city council, it's not so important the energy saving, because we don't know what to do with nuclear energy during night. That's one.
So it should be consumed.
Yeah, that should be consumed, and we don't have to. So you can make a very good deal with the energy supplier for low prices during night. Yeah, that's the hidden problem, but it exists, and we know, because we have a lot of discussion in the with the lighting industry about what to do during night. And the other problem is that sometimes companies embrace a lot the theory that you should use a lot of sensors and telemanagement. All these are very expensive solutions, and sometimes they don't work. But they are selling to municipality, very expensive. I'm telling, my city, Cluj, is having 3 telemanagement systems from 3 companies. Only one is partially functioning, because they are very sophisticated system, doesn't work properly all the time, and there's always a lot of complaint from people. If the luminaire doesn't work, they have a lot of complaints from people. I have a luminaire on my street which is not working. Okay, explain that to a mayor that why they have complaint. So that's why they found now the best solution is to dim the luminaires, or probably, I think now there's an individual solution for each luminaire. It doesn't have to be a very sophisticated system, because sophisticated system means sophisticated problems and a company to solve them. So, because people don't notice it's dimmed. If it's dimmed gradually, it's the best solution. So probably going for 30% of the total power, in a way, it's the best solution. And only sensor for pedestrian crossing or risk areas, I don't know. Or for instance, you have a child playground, but if there's no child there, why putting light there? Yeah. But then you need a very reliable movement detector. The best solution usually are the video camera, but then you have a problem with GDPR.
There are not in the front of, in the entrance of the parks or children playgrounds. There are some panels in which you can find the information. If you go there, you are agreed to be filmed. Or
okay, but then okay, because I think this is the best one of the best solution. One, because you're using the video camera, camera with a clever system, a smart system. They can tell you there's someone in that playground. You switch on the lights, and then, I mean, there are solutions, but okay, you need to find a right balance between personal safety and nature, because nature doesn't need light. And yeah, well, there are some parts in Germany where they are not using public lighting because they have foxes. In Berlin, in some parks, and the foxes don't like public lighting. But then you'll have the discussion, which is the priority for the city council, foxes or kids?
People.
In the typical way of putting problems. But in fact, it's the way we are learning now to live with other animals, with foxes, with bears. And I think we still need to learn how to accept that there are other animals that are using the same space as we are doing, and they have the same priorities.
Indeed.
Okay.
Thank you for your answers.
Yeah, so it's an interesting discussion, and I don't think I have the proper answer. We are still struggling, and probably in the years to come, we'll have better lighting solution. So what I'm proposing now, if any questions, if there are some questions, because that creates more interesting discussion than my simple presentation. If not, I will switch to my next presentation, which is about school lighting. Yeah. And okay, just a second to start. And why I'm using this school lighting? Because for many years in Romania, we have neglected the schools. And yeah, the first, well, that's the typical investment in Romania. You start with the city council, which should be a nice building. You invest a lot of money, and then it's the time for schools. And the beginning for school is just painting in a fresh paint for the school. Then you go for new windows. Then you go for thermal insulation, and then you realize it's a problem for comfort for people which are living in this staying in this classroom. But always think about the basic criteria for a classroom lighting. First of all, it's safety. Why you need lighting? For safety reason. You need to see, you need a solution in case the lights went off. And thinking about Ukraine, I heard there is a lot of power cuts in due to Russian attacks, and then the lights switch off. And what you need to do, you need to go out of that building, and then you need emergency lighting, which works perfectly, so everyone can go out of that building in a safe way. Because they are kids, they have the backpacks, they can fall from all these left backpacks all around. So safety, it's important. Second issue, it's comfort. And we realize, especially in Romania, there's a problem with the lighting level. I mean, we don't have the proper lighting level inside a school. I mean, we need something like 500 lux, a lot of lighting, and we found that usually it's 100, 200, maximum 250 lux. So you need more light. A second issue is that due to this poor light, especially in former communist country, I don't know why they have this issue with lighting. Most of the kids now, they are wearing glasses. So one of the explanation of the myopia, especially in Asian country, in China, they found there's a connection between poor lighting in school and the fact that most of the kids in China, they have glasses and they suffer of myopia. So comfort, it's an issue because you want that to be sure that kids are seeing well, they can write, they can read in a proper way. So best solution is to use as much as daylight as possible, but daylight sometimes during winter, it's not enough. So you need a lot of electric lighting, especially on the first hours. And of course, a professor cannot be a lighting control system all the time, switching on and off, and lines of all this need to be controlled in a way so people concentrate on what they are doing and not on the lighting. And also, as usually, it's an architectural approach. If it's an old school, which has an architectural type of a typical architecture, you need to have an architectural approach. I mean, your luminaires need to fit with the architecture. There, let's say this is a more subtle problem, but it's one of the problems of the lighting. But always think safety first, then comfort, then energy efficiency, because sometimes I'm afraid that in some countries, especially now, everybody is focusing on energy efficiency. But energy efficiency, it's not a scope on its own. I mean, an energy efficient way, it's just to switch off the lights. No energy use, but still you need to have classes during morning, early morning, you need light, in the afternoon again light. And okay, this is a problem. So safety first, comfort second, energy efficient third, and then of course it should be also important to have an architectural approach. Yes, we have European standards, and that's a big advantage. EN means European norm. And what I will strongly recommend is to start using European norms. I could not find if you start using this European norm, but it's a first way of getting into this system with Europe. For instance, SR mean Romanian standard, but in fact, it's a European norm, which has just been translating into Romanian. In a way, it's simple nowadays because we are working all together in EU for these standards, not only EU, also Switzerland, Norway, UK, all these countries working to these standards. And then when we finish the standards, we set for a vote, and if 2/3 of the country agree on that vote, that's a European norm. And that's an advantage, having the same standard all over Europe, especially second standards, 1838, it's emergency lighting. And emergency lighting should be all around Europe the same. It's a question of safety. And if I see the same lighting all over Europe, that means I feel more safe. And the idea is you cannot have special demands in Romania and special demands in France regarding lighting. People are the same all over Europe, so they need the same amount of lighting for reading, writing, and the same emergency lighting everywhere. And the last one, it's a standards which regard energy efficiency. And there's always a question about how you assess the energy efficiency. And energy efficiency have the same standard saying, I will assess the efficiency based on LENI, lighting energy numeric indicator, which is measured in kilowatt hour by square meter a year. And there's always here a question, and the question is how I will measure the electricity needed for lighting in a building. So the idea is quite simple, but quite rare use, to use an electric meter for each building. That means I will separate the lighting from the rest of the consumers, so I can easily measure how much electricity I use during a year. So simply, I know I measure today, 14th of November, then I will come in 1 year time, make the difference. I will know how much electricity was used during a year for lighting, and then I will divide this electricity by how many square meters I have into my building, and I can compare my electricity use for my school with the school from my neighborhood or from other schools from the same city, and saying this is a problem because this school uses twice as much energy as the school, but not as a quantity by square meter. So it's a factor, how can I compare the two schools? Okay, these are the standards, and think about most of you are working in a city council. First, there are some stages when you're doing the school lighting. First, drafting the specification. And there are two ways of drafting. You can draft yourself the specification. I mean, you can say, I want this kind of lighting, of course, LED lighting, and so how much control will you have on your system? I mean, you can have a lot of control inside the building, but be aware, we are using quite a lot of control system now in our faculty. I'm teaching also at faculty lighting, and we have a lot of issues with the new control system based on Zigbee, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. Yeah, that's why I'm sometimes you can hear me being a little bit skeptic about control system. And I'm not using the cheapest control system. I'm using from big companies, but still there are issues with the control system, and they are not communicating with each other. So one of the problems is now we are thinking to move to KNX system, which is a unified system for control HVAC, heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and lighting, and being more generalist than instead of using a very specific to one company system, which are hard to maintain or to solve the problem. So this is, okay, first is drafting the specification. How much light will you need in your classroom? And where you get this information from standards. You look into the standards and you see how much light you need into a classroom. And you specify this, and to be clear about what you're asking for. And then preparing the tender, how you will write a tender in order to be independent and to have more companies coming and making offer, but not on the best price. That's the worst solution. Best price usually meaning worst material, the cheapest material. And the problem is that you're also interested in keeping the low consume for the whole lifetime of the building and not having to repair or maintain the control system every month, sending a company to solve the issues. And then organize the tender. And also what I feel it's an issue in East Europe, it's reception of the works. The works are finished, and how can I say it's a good lighting? I need to go with the lux meter, something that measure the illuminance level, and to measure in several points and to see, okay, the illuminance I ask on the blackboard, which it should be around 500 lux, it's more than 500 lux. And then I can say, yes, it's a very good solution and it works. Or if it's not, well, they have to conform to what I have asked from the beginning. And the fact that you are using LEDs, that doesn't mean they don't need maintenance. Yes, you don't need to replace the lamps like for fluorescent lamps, but you need to clean the luminaire. Dust is still a problem for all the luminaires, so you clean from dust. Also, see if the control system works as it was intended. In many cases, there are complaints from professors, from kids, that they don't like the control system, the lights switch off too often, it's not a good sensor. And sometimes the biggest problem is with the so-called presence detector, not movement detector. These are cheap sensors and they work quite well. I mean, when they feel that somebody is moving, they switch on the lighting. But for presence detector, especially in the case of the classroom, people are just staying, listening to professor or just simply dreaming, the lights switch off because they cannot feel it's a present, human presence. So from time to time, I know because I'm staying in an office with a presence detector, and from time to time, the lights switch off, and then I need to make a movement from my hand just to say, okay, I'm still here, I still need light. And so that's why I know that's not very nice when they switch off the lights suddenly. That's a feeling of being unsecure, what's happening, and in fact, it's the control system which is not working properly. Okay, next. Yeah, so talking about this safety criteria, we have emergency lighting for marking exits. On your left, it's the system. Before it was written exit or exit in your language, which is not accepted now, but European Union saying we don't have to argue about the language. There are many countries where they have two languages, official languages, and there's always a discussion, should I make only, let's say in Spain, in Catalan or in Spanish? Now they say, okay, it's a simple pictogram saying it's someone who's running, and where should he take, she should go on the left, on the right, and this is very important. There are several systems. One system is with a local battery. The problem with local battery, it's in some cases, they are cheap batteries, and after 2-3 years, they don't work properly, or they don't stand for 1 hour. For instance, in schools in Romania, they should stand for 3 hours, which is a lot of time. I don't know why 3 hours. I can understand in a hospital, they need to go for 3 hours, because there you have some people which are not conscient, and it takes a lot of time till you can evacuate, so everyone run of that building. But for a school, okay, but it's 3 hours, 3 hours. But the problems we are facing now in Romania is that you need to have safety tests. For instance, each year you need to perform operation tests. So you switch off the mains, electricity mains, and you need to see if for 1 hour or 3 hours for school, the luminaire are still functioning after 3 hours. This is a test. The other problem is that you don't need only near the door. This is the marking exit. So this is the door where you need to go when you need to go out of this building. So sometimes you need, for instance, for a classroom, you need also for circulation. So you need to see where are the corridors or the passing area, and you need to avoid in a classroom the backpacks of the other kids. And also again, against panic, especially in universities, we have big lecture hall with 300 people, and imagine in a place like that, the lights switch off suddenly, and somebody says like fire, and there's a panic, and then you need lighting just that people don't panic, because panic is the worst situation, because in case of panic, humans become like animals. I mean, you want to save your life, you jump on somebody else. That's the worst scenario. So emergency lighting, it's an important issue in case of any lighting. So it's the first criteria, safety. Okay. Then it's a comfort criteria. And you will ask me, where should I have these comfort criteria? And it's these standards, 12464. And from this standard, European standards, you can have the level in a classroom required 500 lux. It's required, modified. This is something new. Last year it appeared, this new standard, saying that in the case of a classroom, you can ask for a higher level of illuminance. For what reason? A lot of students or people have glasses. If I have glasses, I need more light, because a lot of light is absorbed by the glasses. Okay, by the lenses. Or in the case of old people like me, I need more light because I'm more than 50, and because I need glasses. Also important thing, I need uniformity of lighting. I don't want spots of lights. This area more light, this area less light. Now, if possible, I need a uniform lighting. Everywhere should be around 500. But of course, you cannot keep 500 perfect. Some places you have 600 lux, some places you can have even with 0.6, 300 lux. It's okay, but on average, you need to have 500 lux. That means you don't put the lux meter at every point, it's 500, 500, 500. No, on average should be around 500 lux. Color rendering should be above 80, which is a good value, but not very good, but it's enough. I mean, okay, for art classes, you don't have good color render. Yeah, that's it. We'll see how we can do, but it's okay. And then an important issue, you should avoid glare. Glare comes from too powerful luminaires. So if I look directly to a lamp, an incandescent lamp, this is a glare issue. Like you're having into the streets, you're going and a car approach you and there's glare, you cannot see clear. Okay, and the other aspect is how much light do I need on the ceiling, on the wall, on average, on every surfaces. Why I need, you can ask, but why I need light on the wall? Because, for instance, now during the day, the daylight create enough light on the wall, on the ceiling. So on average, I feel okay because there's light everywhere. And there's some specific requirement. Lighting should be controllable. Okay, that's a recommendation. You can have it or you cannot have it, but at least you should control on lines which should be parallel to the windows. More lights on the wall opposite to the window, less light close to the window. Also, they say that for classroom use for small kids, you can have less lights because small kids have better view than kids that are after 12 years old. But this is a long discussion again. But for auditorium lecture hall for students, it's 500 lux. But attending lecture in sitting areas in auditorium, so for students, you can have less lights. Yeah, black, green, and white boards, 500 lux, but where? On vertical surfaces. And that's always complicated to have on vertical surfaces because you need dedicated luminaires for vertical surfaces. And presenter teacher shall be illuminated. For instance, I have the window in front of me. Why? Because you need to see my face. Always a trainer, a presenter, a teacher needs light on his face because not every student can hear very well. Sometimes that can be hearing issues. So sometimes people are reading on the lips. So that's why you need light on the face of the presenter. So in case you cannot understand well, you cannot hear well, at least you can read on the lips of the teacher. Yeah. So that's explained, especially, so maybe you have a conference room. In the city council, you have a lot of meeting rooms. And in the meeting room, this is very important to have light on the face of the people. So you can, you can have a better understanding, and sometimes you can see if the mayor is happy or not happy about what you are saying in a meeting. Yeah. Specification. For instance, if I will put some specification in let's say when I make the specs for the tender, I will put probably this: luminous efficacy for luminaires, more than 130 lumen per watt. So I should avoid cheapest luminaires. There are a lot of cheap LED luminaires which have efficacy less than 130 lumen. They are with 80. This is not efficient. But there is always a question: how high should I raise this efficacy? Because there are some state-of-the-art luminaires which are 160, 180 lumen per watt. But I wouldn't go for this top because these are very expensive. Okay, so it's always the balance. Should I go for a very expensive one or should I go lower? I should go also for specific power less than 1.1 watt by square meter by 100 lux. It's a way of measuring the efficacy of the system, the whole system. Also, laning, which is measuring the energy I need for a square meter for 1 year. This is an means year in Romanian. Sorry, I forgot to replace that. But laning, it's the new system of measuring the efficacy of the lighting system, because maybe the lighting system is sufficient, but it consumes a lot of light because the lights are still switched on for the whole day. For instance, usually professor comes into the classroom in the morning, switch on the lights, and then till the last classes, it's still on because nobody cares. It's all over the world the same problem. It's not a problem in Ukraine or Romania or UK. It's just because professor, it's not their job to switch off the lights. So you need a control system which says if it's enough illuminance on your desk, then they will dim the lights. So reduce the luminous flux or switch off the lights if it's enough light from daylight. But this should be done automatically because nobody has the time to do it this manually. Okay. So, well, let's have a break and then we'll talk about a typical classroom. Let's have a break. Let's meet at 11:45 and continue this presentation. So you have time for a break. Okay, break. Okay, we should continue with presentation. Okay, that's a typical classroom. Yeah, well, it's a typical classroom for buildings in the former communist countries, 9 by 6 by 9 meter by 6 meter, 3.3 meter height. Well, sometimes they're equipped with 6 luminaires with 2 fluorescent lamps. Now, initially 40 watt, but nowadays with 36 watt fluorescent lamps. So the power doesn't mean it's 2 by 36. It's you have to multiply by usually by 1.2, which is the loss in the ballast, because they have usually conventional ballast, this heavy ballast of copper, and they consume around 84 watt each luminaire, and the whole system it's about 500 watts, and the average luminance it's around 270 lux. So first problem is that the illuminance level it's not enough. So it should be almost double number of luminaire in order to achieve 500 lux as is needed now. It is true that till 2 years ago, the former European standards mentioned that in the case of schools, not high school, but in case of till the 8th grade, you can have 300 lux, but still it's not 300 lux. Okay, just a second. I have problems from time to time to move. So you made a calculation, and the calculation, that's why someone who knows about lighting should be present. Oh, sorry, now I see it's in Romanian. By the way, it is a European software. It's called Dialux, and you can switch Dialux in your own language. And even if you don't know other languages, you can ask that the listing it's done in another language. But I will translate for you. I mean, the average EM is average illuminance. So you see it's above 500 lux, never under 500 lux. You can be more than 500 lux. The uniformity is 0.67, so it's above the average uniformity of 0.6, and UGR it's less than 19, so it's perfect, it's 10. Okay, for this value, it's luminaire. I skipped the name of the producer just to don't have a discussion about who's the producer or not. But if you see the distribution of the luminaire, it's the so-called butterfly distribution. What means a butterfly distribution? So it's more on sides that it's below the luminaire. So that ensures an uniformity of lighting. So you see, for us as lighting specialists, that makes something. It gives me credibility that this kind of luminaires will ensure uniformity for my classroom. So because all these criteria that I presented here, 500 lux, uniformity 0.6. This I need to go more than the required value. Only with the glare, I need to be under this glare of 19. Yeah, so let's go again. And I see for floor, ceiling, parets mean walls, it's not quite as it's asked. but usually I'm asking only for illuminance on my working plan, for uniformity, and for UGR. That means glare, unified glare ratio should be less than 90. It's also here something very important. Below here, you can see it consumes only 226.8 watt, which is half of the value that was before. If I look again here, but the problem was that I was using 500 watt, but the illuminance level was only 207 lux measured. This is also important measure. So normally here I use 1000 watt. I will need more than 12 luminaires in order to ensure that I have 500 lux. The problem is here I need 4 times less in order to ensure that I have the illuminance above 500 lux. So yes, you should ask for the company who's doing the design that you see that the target values are reached. So you had some specification, they have done the calculation, and they can show you that all your requirements are met, and also that the power is only 226 watts, which means that you need less than 4 times the value from before. From the same producer. So it's same producer, but it's a luminaire which is not very efficient. But sometimes architects just love them because they are simply lines of lights. So they install 3 lines of luminaires like that, with in a total 15 luminaires for the same space. They are obtaining the illuminance level 579. Okay, more than it's needed. Okay, the uniformity it's met 0.68. Okay, but the problem is the system doesn't perform as a glare. It's more than 19, it's 23, so that's an issue. And the problem is that for the students or people's the kids that are using this space, this is create glare. Also, as the level of the power level, it's 400 watt. So what I wanted to show is that from the same producer, same LED luminaires, but with not so good technical specification. For instance, you see the distribution of light. It's a simple opal diffuser. So the result, it's sending light more under the luminaire and less near the luminaire. And the performance of that luminaire, it's around 100 lumen per watt. The other was, if I divide 3055, okay, that's really complicated. Okay, I need my computer. 3750 divided by 25.2. So the performance is 148.8 lumen per watt. So roughly 150 lumen per watt, comparing with the other luminaire, which is only 100 lumen per watt. So the fact that it's 50% more efficient, you see it's the performance related to how much energy you're using is here, you're using almost double energy. Here 226, here 408 watt. So that means the design of the lighting, it's so important. So first of all, you need to be sure that what has been designed by a company, and I encourage to use local company. I'm sure there will be lighting specialists in your towns, but ask for the performance, to match the performance of the European norm. If the European norms are met, that's perfect. And you also probably will need a special luminaire for blackboard lighting, which is a wall washer. That means it gives light only in one direction. The direction, of course, is the direction of the blackboard. Okay, now it's blackboard, whiteboard, it can be green board, doesn't matter. You need light on that wall where is the blackboard. And usually you cannot have light if you're not having a wall washer. And then what I also recommend is to have an electricity meter exclusively on the interior lighting system. So you're measuring how many kilowatt hour was used by interior lighting system. Why interior lighting? I'm not measuring how much energy is used for exterior lighting. That's another topic. But I need to measure what it's used by the lighting system. So how I measure? By kilowatt hour. Then I do a simple calculation, get out your smartphone, divide it by how many square meters you're having in your school. So that's how I can compare two schools. Because if I'm comparing as an energy, but one school it's double surface as the other, it's comparing apples with pears, so it's not fair. So remember, this is Lenny, and this is important on measuring the performance of a building from the point of view of lighting. The same criteria apply to heating, to ventilation, to hot water. You need to measure how much energy you're using by square meter for 1 year time. And also for accepting lighting works. So you had the tender, somebody won the tender, they installed some luminaires, they will tell you they found very good and very cheap luminaires and whatever criteria they will have. But in order to accept this lighting work, you need to go with a lux meter. Okay, you don't need to go personally. If you're working for a city council, you may have a specialist, an independent from the company who has made the job, and he will go and measure the average illuminance on that space. Okay, if he have a special spectrophotometer, he can also measure the color temperature, that's the color of the light, and also the color rendering. But with this device, which is in the photo, you cannot measure that. You can measure only how much is the illuminant on one point. You measure in 10 points, and then you have the average illuminance. But it's important to measure it because, and one question should be, if I need 500 lux and the installation is brand new, and I measure all over in 12 points, and the average illuminance is 550 lux, is it okay or not? That's a very good question, but I put it myself, because I can tell you it is not. But you will say, but you asked for 500 lux and it was 550 and the installation, it's brand new. And that's the point, it's brand new. And in time, the luminous flux from the LED luminaire, it's starting decaying, it's dropping. Because it's getting older and all electronic components are getting older. So the lights which came out of that luminaire, it's slightly going worse and worse. So that's why you need more light at the beginning, because in order to keep 500 lux, that doesn't mean to be 500 lux when the installation it's brand new. it's all in the worst possible time. After 5 years of using, you need to be above 500 lux. Plus, there will be dust. From the point of view of a lighting installation, a classroom, it's a dirty place. It doesn't mean it's mud everywhere. It's the fact that it's dust. It's everywhere dust. I mean, you're not cleaning the luminaires every day. You're not dusting. Maybe if it's once a year, it's okay. But at least once a year, you need to dust the luminaires, because there's dust everywhere and you need to okay. So this is important to keep in mind, that we are over designing a lighting installation. So for instance, here in the drawing, in the calculation, it's calculated as a 500 lux, but it's a maintenance factor which is 0.83. Yeah, normally it's 0.8, but somebody here, probably one of my students, in order to have more than 500 lux, he pushed a little bit the maintenance factor. Yeah, it happens sometimes. So that's why you need to read very well the design calculation in order to see if somebody tried to cheat you or not. 0.80, that means you're cleaning the luminaires every year. And I don't know about Ukraine, but in Romania, definitely they are not cleaning every year the luminaire. So I cannot see people coming and dusting the luminaire every year, unfortunately. Should do that, yeah. So also an important thing, and sometimes it's really forgot in many places, especially in East Europe. It's maintenance of the lighting system. So what means that maintenance? It's the replacement of fault luminaires. So I have luminaires, but sometimes, even if are LED luminaires, it doesn't mean they work properly. Sometimes it's a fault one you need to replace. Yeah, it happens. It can be LED, this doesn't mean it's fault proof. Second thing, it's improving the control system. When they are installing the control system, they are making some assumption. The space it's used, and they give you some scenarios, saying, for instance, I'm doing something on the blackboard. I'm writing something on the blackboard. So this is a scenario where I need lighting on the blackboard. Another scenario could be, I have a presentation with a video projector. In that case, I don't need light on the screen. No, definitely, I need it as dark as possible. So it's another scenario. Another scenario was, for instance, when students start making some drawings, they need more light. So you're making some scenarios, but frankly, you don't know how they are using exactly that building. You're proposing some scenarios, and then they found that we don't like this scenario, we don't like this light. For instance, sometimes it's mentioned that you should put some light on the presenter. But some professors hate they have these lights. They feel like they are actors on a theater stage. So they hate this. So you make a new scenario saying no lights on the presenter. Okay, that's fine. But you need to change this and to improve. Maybe the position of the sensor, it's not the best one. Another issue is that the moments when the lights switch on, it's not very well chosen. So you need to change something. So all the time it's change. And the problem is that needs very specialized people and people with time. And usually the control people guy, don't have patience, and they want to solve everything in 5 minutes. They come and say, oh, you don't know anything, and they start to pushing some buttons, and they sometimes solve the problem and sometimes not. Checking the operating time of emergency lighting. You need to check if it's really work for 1 hour or how it was specified. Sometimes it's 1 hour or 3 hours. For instance, you have high-rise building, then you need 3 hours till the last user, which was on the last floor, it's coming on stairs downstairs. So check that it's working for 3 hours as it was supposed, and also check if all the luminaires are functioning. Maybe you have old system where there's still fluorescent lamps. These fluorescent lamps need to be replaced in case it's not working properly. And once a year, luminaires should be whipped from dust. This is very important to do this cleaning of the luminaires. Yeah, that's extremely important. And that's always the question, should we use control system? Well, an LED luminaires need a driver. The LED doesn't work directly connected to 230 volts. It is connected through a driver. It's an electronic device which supplies the constant voltage or constant current to the LEDs. So these drivers, if they are DALI or DALI with DALI 2 protocol, DALI doesn't mean the painter, doesn't mean it's a universal protocol. So in order to be sure that if they are using luminaires from tube producer, that it works well with my control system, I ask them to have a DALI control. And they have most of the luminaires, 99% are DALI control. So they are using the same protocol. The only problem is DALI and DALI, I can say on a luminaire, on a driver, it's a DALI driver. But DALI 2, it's verified by an independent association. That's the difference. So I need that in order to control the luminous flux of the DALI system. It's got the possibility to control the luminous flux, or sometimes even to control the color temperature. Usually I can use motion sensor, but only in hallways and toilets, and present detectors in classroom. Okay, another solution it is connected. If I open the classroom, I open also the light. When I close the door, I switch off the light. But usually the best solution will be a presence detector, which is quite expensive. A motion detector, it's something that costs €5. A presence detector, a good one, costs €100. So it's a difficult decision. Should I use motion or presence detector? Second, all the producer now are talking about tunable white. So you can change the color temperature. The idea is that during the day, you can have a warm white in the morning, a very cold white during the day, and again something warm during the night. So because it's a circadian rhythm. Okay, this is in theory. The problem, this solution costs a lot of money. So these are usually 4 times more expensive than classical solutions. So I'm still in debate. We are having a classroom with this system, but it's not very used. I will not say that all the time professors are using it or try to change the color temperature, for instance, to wake up students after having lunch when usually they have this afternoon dip, they are sleeping during classes, and they putting some cold temperature, and suddenly all the students are awake and present, and yeah, plus it costs a lot of money. But it exists, now it's called integrative lighting system. Before it was human-centered lighting. Okay, but it's here, it's a lot of how to say, marketing, and still few results. So we are not convinced, I'm not 100% convinced that this is the priority now that all the classrooms had an integrative lighting system. Just to mention that it exists, but maybe in the years to come, definitely, probably all the luminaires will have this opportunity to change the color temperature. Now the big producer have usually a switcher on the back of the luminaire, which allow you to change the luminous flux. So instead of having 3 products, they have a switcher giving you less light or more light for the same product. Yeah, it's one of their way to optimize the range of luminaires they are producing. So this is about school lighting. Question, if you have question about school lighting. I give it as an example. It can be office. It's more or less the same problem. You still need 500 lux in one office. You still now need to avoid glare. You still now need good color rendering. So these are things that you need to have in an office. And the only difference, it's maybe in a conference room where there's most you need to have a good lighting on the face of the people, so you can see the face of people. Okay, questions. Let me check the chat. Maybe somebody put it on the chat. The name of the program, it's Dialogues. Yeah. It's free, you're right. Gabriela said it's Dialogues. You go on, you just put Dialogues Evo, download, it's free. Why it's free? Because company pay for it. So you're free to use it. Okay. No, okay. So questions?
Maybe only some technical information. We have 12:15, and we have about 45 minutes before the scheduled end of our meeting. So I don't know, maybe Dorin will have some presentation, and we should leave maybe some time at the very end for some discussion and maybe last questions. So if anybody wants to ask the question right now, please feel free, or you can leave your questions for the very end of our meeting, which will be approximately in 45 minutes.
Yeah, there's one more presentation. It's about the future of lighting. Yeah, because, yeah, but first question, because there's... If not, my last presentation will be about lighting future. Yeah. Okay, about this. First of all, with all new technology, it's the so-called Gartner slope. Whenever a new technology emerges, there's a peak of inflated expectation. That was happening with LEDs more than 10 years ago. Everybody expects a sort of miracle from LED. They will solve all the problems. In fact, then we realize we create another issue. The issue is with light pollution. LEDs have a peak on the blue area of light. So most of the so-called white LED are in fact blue LED, which then they have some rare earths which give then light on the whole spectrum. But still they are producing a lot of blue light, which then enhance the light pollution. Okay, so that's always with the technology. You find that you solve one problem and you create another one. Then it's this true of disillusionment, which it's always happening. It's with LEDs. After the beginning, everybody starts thinking, oh, it's not a good idea. Maybe the former fluorescent lamps or incandescent lamps were not so bad, and so on. And then you have this slope of enlightenment, and now we are in a stable, let's say, we are in this plateau of productivity. Everybody is using LED. The only problem is LEDs are not the same. I mean, it depends from producer. They are getting better and better each year, cheaper and cheaper each year. One issue is the fact that we are not producing any LED in Europe. Most of them come from China and less from Korea and from Japan. But for the rest, I think 80% of the production is in China. So in case something happen in China, we will have real problems with LED. Let's hope it doesn't happen. On the other hand, the producer start to improve their products. So if at the beginning it was enough to say it's an LED luminaires and everybody's, oh great, now they realize how to work with LEDs, how to extract heat from an LED, because if you see the urban lights, they have a lot of radiators trying to extract the heat. That was especially at the beginning. Now it has improved a lot. So first downlights with LED were around 6 kilo. Now they are less than half a kilo as a weight. That was very interesting because they have improved a lot. So that's always with the new technology. Sometimes you must avoid to buy the first product. But if you avoid buying the first products, then probably the technology will be doomed. So but let the others buy new technology. And always look when a product is on that plateau of productivity. It was the same with flat TV screens and so on. At the beginning were extremely expensive. Now it's getting lower and lower, better quality. A lot of all gadgets that comes now with the TV. It's the same with the LED. So repeating a lot, there are several European norms. Work with these European norms. The first norm, it's about interior lighting. 1838, it's with emergency lighting. 15193, it's for performance. LED has no influence on norms. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're using LEDs or not. For the moment, we have no norm on human health. I mean, the problem about this blue light, how much blue light should be inside the room, especially in the afternoon. We are still discussing this issue and we haven't reached, we don't agree. We agree, we disagree, but the second problem, it's about melatonin. Yeah, and you know, the problem now it's with children and youngsters and teenagers. Why? they are looking on computers, on smartphones a lot during night. And now they have a lot of issues with sleeping. I can hear it. My daughter is 24, but all the time complaining, I'm not having a good sleep. All her friends having more or less the same problem, but the problems comes from the fact that they are going on bed with their computer, on their smart phone, and so on. And these all are big sources of blue LEDs, and these blue LED have impact on melatonin. Well, and the problem with this impact on health is that it's not you're staying one day with a lot of blue LED and second day you're sick. It's getting gradually, and the effect is probably in 2-3 years. Yeah, so for the moment, there's no good lighting system that enhance circadian rhythm. There will be a lot of advertising. But as it happens with green building, in green buildings, we have what is called greenwashing. All the companies, they are marketing as being the most sustainable company, using only regenerative energy and so on. But a lot of time, there's a lot of greenwashing. Or sometimes the system, it's extremely expensive. So there should be a balance. I mean, I don't encourage you to use the most expensive product just because it is labeled to be sustainable, green product, and so on. So it should be always a balance. And also use lighting professional. Design companies, local companies, that should be an asset for your community, because if you're using local products, local specialists, that it's so important for your community to enhance and to be better. Okay, so luminaire efficiency now it's over 130 lumen per watt. That's also, and it's changing. Every year is changing. I can put here 150. Okay, I can put 180. There are already LED lamps which are 210 lumen per watt. They are coming from Philips. So in last year, they launched a new range of lamps, simple lamps, which are extremely successful, 210. Okay, it's more expensive as usual, but for the moment, there is no limit in installed power. So that's why you have now stadium with LED lamps. 10 years ago, it was not possible. Now, yeah. And the big advantage with LED lamps on a stadium is the fact that you can dim it. So you can dim, they can go with music, and you can do a lot of things that was not possible with a metal halide or a sodium lamp. So we have now total control of luminous flux. So we can dim, that means from 0 to 100%, we can play with light. We start playing with color temperature, so having warmer or colder temperature. Yes, we can have it now, but we're still working on the photometry. That means on the same luminaire to change the distribution of the light. So you can have it a spotlight now, and then suddenly you push a button and it's changed to a very wide distribution. Well, for the moment, it's not possible. It's quite complicated, but it will come in the years. They are working. It's still not economical or feasible. For interior lighting installation, specific connected load, it should be below 1. I mentioned 1.1. this is a new presentation. I will say below 1 watt by square meter by 100 lux. Best should be 0.7, 0.8. You can obtain it in big rooms or in a supermarket. You can have it. I mean, it's strangely, but if you have a big room, you have better results because you have no reflection. One of the problems with small rooms is you have a lot of interreflection. Every reflection, it's a loss of energy. So in a bigger room, you have bigger results. Smaller room, so don't ask for good results in a toilet, in a small office, because in small rooms, you cannot get good results. Regarding control system, the most important thing is to clarify what's your need, what you want for a control system. It's easy to say, I want a control system, but what you want to control? Okay, you want to control the luminous flux, okay? You want to have some scenarios. Excellent, that's a very good use. But then you need to specify, do you really want also to change the color temperature? In some cases, it can be something interesting, but in some cases, it's a waste of money. Sometimes people want to control the color of the lighting. Okay, why to control the color? Do you need a classroom with red lights? I don't know, maybe for some kids, for enhancing their attention, it can be a solution, but sometimes it's more than you need. Also, what kind of sensors will you need? I told you the best solution are video system, but nobody is happy with the video system in an office, in a toilet. Okay, no, there's a no clear. But so it's a discussion about the need of privacy of people, because sometimes this video camera, you cannot set perfectly to show only the street or only the room. It can be an issue. But for instance, with for pedestrian crossing, now we have a LIDAR sensor, which comes from the military system, which can tell you it's one people approaching the crossing. I don't know which is the people. I cannot see the face. I know it's only one people. But for instance, sensors will be a great change without video camera to tell me that in a classroom I have 18 kids and one professor. And you'll ask me why you need so much precision. Usually for the ventilation system, because it's CO2 emission. For lighting, it can be interesting, especially for big auditorium, because sometimes you have a lecture hall for 300 people. In fact, it's only 30 people coming, staying only in one part of the place, and I will need light only for that 30 people. For the rest, where there's no one in that lecture hall, I can dim the lights. I wouldn't go for switch off the light, because it's not nice to have a space where it's really dark. Okay, so it's the importance of sensors. For instance, now they are discussing for public lighting to install not very good video camera. Why not very good? Because they cannot recognize the face. For some countries, this is very important. For France, it's extremely important. So because they see this video camera as a sort of big brother. So they don't want to see that they didn't went to their home, they went to some friend's home. Okay, typical French problems. But they can install a camera with low resolution, so they can tell you it's a free parking space below the lighting pole. or there is an accident, or the cars are stopped in that area. They can install also noise detector. Noise detector, if it's a firearm, you can do triangulation and you can spot exactly where's the place where there's somebody shooting. Okay, that's about the future. I don't know if this is the future or not. It's only a discussion that now with the new system where all the lamps, the luminaire public lighting, it's on all the time, and only from the control system you're switching on and off, which is something new, because before I was switching the light by simply having a switcher. Now the lights are all the time on, but the light it's on and off from the control system. It's a difference. Then we have this communication interface. And you may say, what's the problem in the interface? Oh, it's a huge problem, because sometimes this interface are such a mess. I mean, I have a touch panel from one company, which they always ask me at the university, come because we have an issue, we cannot work with it, we don't understand how it works. So I go and push some buttons and it starts working, because it's really complicated. So it needs to be easy. Now on my telephone, I have two systems from two different companies just to switch on and off the lighting, or to have different scenarios. But it's only me who's using. I install it to some colleagues and they said, we are not interested, it's too complicated. So this interface needs to be more easy to use more easily. And this is complicated, it's easy to use. And second is the future proof, because sometimes I'm wondering with all this control system, every company has its own control system. Now we have home assistant. Okay, nice to use home assistant. I'm using home assistant. Now I can see the temperature on my laboratory, which is 19.7. Okay, not bad. Because we have set it to be right 20 degrees. But the problem is that I have other system which is unavailable. They don't work. I don't know what to do, because they simply don't work. But well, just to see that there are some now I have to get rid of this system. Okay. The question which we are having now, are there luminaires we're installing now future-proof? Because what's happened till now? We have fluorescent luminaires, we have high-pressure sodium metal halide luminaire. When the LEDs has come, all these old luminaires were simply dismantled. Eventually, some materials was taken and recycled, and the rest went to the landfill. But now with LEDs and this continuous evolution, now I have LEDs with some performance. In 5 years' time, I'm sure we'll have with better performance. But what should I do? I just simply throw out the old LEDs still functioning and replace it with a better one? Or could I simply replace the existing LED boards with new, more performant? But nobody allow you to do this. This is one of the issues which we are having now, including with public lighting. Officially, you can have it down and replace the existing LEDs with new ones. But I never seen, I've been asking City Council, have you done a refurbishment with new solution? And I said no. They are just saying buy new ones because this is the cheapest solution, and this is again a waste, because it's not circular economy. In circular economy, the best solution is like with an old chandeliers. the old chandeliers have incandescent lamp. Get out incandescent lamp, come with an LED, and it's working perfect. I want this kind of solution. And the industry doesn't offer me this kind of solution. And it's a pity. So, yeah, they are discussing a lot about LED luminaires, internet connected, which can see information about energy consumption. Now they can have constant luminous flux. This is the new solution for reducing even more the consumption, because when it's brand new a luminaire, it gives more light than you need. So you dim it with, at, let's say, 80% of the initial flux, and then you increase the flux, so you maintain the illuminance constant on the on your table. Also, there's new options now to send internet through light. So that means your luminaire will start sending a signal on the light. So in fact, lighting will start how to say, to be modular. You will not notice, because the speed of light will be something so high that you cannot realize. And Li-Fi, it's better than Wi-Fi because it's 10 times more efficient. So they always discuss that the new Apple smartphone will have this Li-Fi function, but every year, so starting from next year, that will be a solution. For the moment, I have not seen a Li-Fi solution working except in Holland, because it's Philips who's doing this. Yeah, sometimes there are some issues with LEDs, because the technology it's improving every year. So see that LED luminaire, it's not 100% a mature technology. So if you're doing a project today and then you install it, but the building it's not ready, and you're installing the luminaire only in 3 years' time, that's an issue. Because meanwhile, the technology has improved, the control system has improved, and in a way, it's a waste of time to produce now a project which will be used only in 3 years' time, because definitely in 3 years' time, there will be better solution. And LED luminaires and energy prices have these ups and downs. So there is a difficulty now to calculate the ROI, its return of investment. To calculate return of investment, which is correct, it's so hard. We lack third-party information about maintenance. I keep asking my former students, what's the reality about public lighting, about interior lighting? How much are you exchanging? At the beginning, they were changing a lot of fault luminaires. Now, not so much, but it's still a problem. And there's a lot of advertising about the fact that LED, it's a 5-year warranty. But what is in reality this 5-year warranty? That means for public lighting, I need to go with a scaffold, get down that luminaire, sending to the producer, and the producer will send me a new one. Or sometimes lately, I just announced I have a fault one, and they said, okay, we'll send you another one. But I still need that scaffold, not scaffold, a car with a crane, just to change the fault one. That's cost for me. And that's not always the case, a simple case, just replacing a lamp from a table lamp. That's easy. But when it's in a difficult position or you need a lot of equipment, that's complicated. And how to set a correct maintenance factor, that's the elephant in the room for the lighting industry, because we're still not sure how to calculate this maintenance factor. because it's one maintenance factor for the land, because it's a lot of dirt, which is, and thinking about industry, which is with a lot of dust or it's pollution, or it's quite complicated. The LED has a maintenance factor. It's dropping slowly the luminous flux. Then it can be some fault lamp. So it's because if you're not setting correctly the maintenance factor, it's a problem when you're measuring the illuminance. It can be too high or too low. There are some other issues: cybersecurity, risk of losing control of your own system. Yeah, that comes sometimes happening, not very often, but what happens if somebody takes control of your control system for a building, for a city? That's a problem. Luminaire could become a virus source. Also, it's sometimes an issue as a privacy. The American army is not using LED luminaire, not that they are produced in China. The problem is they are not sure that inside it's not a microphone or a camera inside the luminaire. So they are still using incandescent lamp because they are sure that 100% there's no microphone or camera. Yeah, well, yeah, that's kind of strange issues that you have sometimes. No communication standard accepted by everyone. So this is also a problem, because for a control system, especially for public lighting control system, each producer has his own system and they do not communicate one with each other. So the idea was initially that, okay, I will install my system in a city and then they will come and buy from me, because why having two systems? Or sometimes like in my hometown, Cluj, where we have three systems for three producers. One is coming from Schroeder, the other from Philips, and the other from Thorn. And they do not communicate with each other, which is kind of stupid thing. So I hope that in the years to come, there will be a single system. I don't know, like it was with Windows. Okay, it's Windows, it's not perfect, but everyone can communicate, have the same communication standard. Yeah. So what to do with existing conventional luminaires? When it comes to LED tubes, there are some LED tubes that you can use to replace fluorescent lamps, but they're efficient. They are not so efficient as they should be. Also, you need to think that you need to recycle existing luminaires and take care of hazardous materials, fluorescent and discharge lamps. So do not simply throw away, send it to landfill, because they are dangerous materials. They contain hazardous materials. In some cases, like for instance, existing school, sometimes there are solutions with power line communication, because you cannot install two more wires, because I forgot to mention, with DALI, there's an issue. DALI needs two extra wires. So in order to make a communication with DALI, I need two wires to go to the luminaires, which is not a problem for a new construction, but for existing one. For all schools where you have already two wires, well, in theory, you need three wires, because you need earthing and then null, and yeah, there's a problem to install two more wires. So in that case, you need power line communication, which is quite sometimes tricky to use. And about future, yeah, well, that's one of the problems that we found, that smart, it's nice, but at the end, you need, you have too much data. That was the problem with Barcelona. they install a lot of sensor, garbage sensor, light sensors and not. But at the end, they receive so much information. And usually when you receive metadata, that means a large amount of data, then you need artificial intelligence, because no human is capable to treat all this data. And a lot of fault data, that's also, but by the way, in some countries, people are not happy with this lighting control, because they realize that the owner can receive a lot of data also about the usage of spaces. For instance, in a university, my case, if I put a smart sensor presence detector, they can tell me that a professor has not come on time, or he had left before the end of the hour. And that's an issue for some people or some offices. Imagine a city council. I can tell you, you are not in your office for 55% of the time. Why? Things like that. Yeah, okay. That's the bad part of invisible analytics. Okay. Okay, and clients and architects will want simulation more realistic, movies including. Yes, they says, okay, that's a nice solution, but I want to see how it will look in my piazza or in my room, or how it. So that's why lately we have more and more complex team of architects, designer, lighting specialists. For instance, Dialogs can be connected with BIM system, with Revit. He can have IFC format for data, for drawings, which is a change. Yeah, a note about wearables. Yeah, it's more one of the problems, especially for public. Well, it connects with the discussion from before, with something that Dan has mentioned. Should I put light when people are there? Well, one solution, if you're wearing Bluetooth enabled jackets or wristbands to detect bicyclists, because bicycle people, from the point of view of a driver, these are the nightmare. You cannot notice bicycles and you have an accident. Yeah, it can be a solution, but then the solution, it's also a problem, because there's a lot of equipment that need to be used in order to see it. Another issue is that people have preferences. And what means preferences? I mean, I would like to have not 500 lux. I will need 1,000 lux. I would need a warm color, not cold color. And from my wristband, the lighting system can interact me. Okay, this is the so-called scenarios for future. But that can lead to a lot of innovative solution. Okay, let's see how it will go. So now about smart home, I can control, I can dim, I can change the color, temperature, light direction. How I can control light direction? I can control some luminaires which goes in one direction. Okay, that can be a solution. It can goes automatically with daylight. If it's enough daylight, I have sensors, daylight sensors, they can dim the light, but only if I'm present in that room. If I'm not there, the only problem is how they can system know if I'm there. There's also some kind of active daylight that use mirrors. Probably when you were kids, you were playing with mirrors, sending message from one block to the other. Yeah, the same idea, it's used now with mirror, the so-called tracking system, mirror tracking system. So just to get light probably on the north side of a building. Yeah. And well, I can control through my smartphone. It's no problem. I told you I have two systems on my telephone, but why control from here the light on my laboratory? It's a big question. Also, I will not recommend you to use color changing from the point of red, blue, because you never like the blue light or red light inside a home, only for a while. Yeah, and we have drones, and you in Ukraine, you become a specialist in drones, and well, there are already some system for luminaire mounting, especially in high poles. They are used in Norway, in some area where it's freezing cold, but then it's a problem with drones, but it's another story. For repairing for projector orientation, especially in stadium. In some cases, instead of using a pole lighting, you can have drones with lighting. That's an image from a project from China, where there's an idea where instead of having public lighting, well, again, it's got connected with what Dan said, you will rent a drone with lighting. So the lighting, well, a sort of, instead of having a porch lighting, you have a drone lighting. Okay, it's a possible solution, and it may be in the years to come, one of the possible solutions, you go in a park, you're just renting lighting, and the lights go with you, okay? And probably they will have also motion detectors, so if someone comes, there will be some light on the other person just to notice if it's not coming with light. Okay, there's some idea about the future of lighting. The problem is still with control system, but probably in the years to come, they will learn your individual behavior and your preferences. And let's hope there will be the moment where they can give you a diagnosis of the control system. I'm waiting for the moment when I will just talk to the system, the control system, said, I would like the lights on the blackboard to be switched on. And they will be switched on, sort of Alexa. But for the moment, it doesn't go so easily as expected. Yeah. Yeah, so this is there will be a lot of video consumption, because one of the things I'm thinking now is that there's a lot of existing luminaires. When you want to dismount them, you never know how to do it, because there's no QR code and there's no instruction on how to be deconstructed. Okay, but probably that will be compulsory in the years to come. For instance, I will dismount a luminaire, and I will need data about how much aluminium it contains, how much steel, because I need to separate these materials and things like that. Yeah. Flyers, brochure, and catalogs. Well, I'm from the times when people were coming with catalogs, huge catalogs. You need to be very strong in the lighting industry to bring 10 catalogs for producer. Not anymore, because everything is now online. Okay, public lighting could be switched on according to car destination. Okay. That can be a solution. Lighting signature of the free parking spaces. And that can be also a possible solution for lighting in the years. What is also interesting nowadays is that we can print luminaires. Already Philips can do it on demand. I mean, it's very strange, because for the moment, Philips, now called Signified, was big producer, but for large quantity. Now they say, okay, you want only 10 products. You want in the colors of Ukraine, saying, okay, no problems. We will print them and 3D printing. And that has changed a lot. I mean, we found that many of the products from the lighting industry are big products, and usually you bring a lot of air. Now, if you're just printing the diffuser on site, they will save a lot of energy because a lot of space is bring by this huge product. And in fact, okay, what you can print, usually plastic printing. The LED luminaire, the cable, this cannot be printed. But you just have the lamp, which produce light, the wiring, okay? And then you just simply installed into a luminaire like this. These are example of shading that can be produced on demand by Philips. Well, so it's a new world coming now. With that means you can involve specially designed products for your own country, school. You can put the name of the school on that diffuser and things like that, which is a new opportunity. So, in conclusion, it's a rapid changing industry. Yeah, I mean, imagine that you're reading a book which is 20 years old. Okay, that's a lot of old things. Nobody's really interested on that book because things are changing from one year to the other. Energy savings are high. But they are not simplistic solution because you'll hear many producers saying what kind of luminaires you have, 2x36 fluorescent lamp. Okay, I give you the equivalent. There's no such thing as equivalent. You need to make calculation to see if it's really doing the business for, or maybe it was wrong from the beginning and you're just replacing. For public lighting, you need to do calculation and to see if it's working. So that's why there are a lot of pilot projects, because you need to use pilot projects instead of using simple solution where you're simply saying, I'm replacing one by one. See if it works, see if the control system, it's okay for the users. I'm not sure that all the control systems are easy to use or people are accepting as a solution. Okay, and energy managers should have clear demands regarding lighting. That means what is energy, illuminance, average illuminance, uniformity, glare, color rendering, color temperature, specific power, power by square meter by 100 lux, Lenny. Lenny should be somewhere between 4 to 7 kilowatt hour by square meter a year. Well, you cannot reach so low level without a good control system. But what is a good control system? It's a long history because there is no easy answer. Okay, so it's 12:59. I like to be on time. And I'm waiting for your questions. Maybe Aaron. If you are shy, you can put it on chat or you can put it directly.
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank you, Dorin, for perfect timing and for very, very interesting and useful information. Starting from very beginning, from some history, biologic, things, go into some technological things, and finishing by some recommendation and overview of future. So we understand that topic of lightning is much more bigger than the possibility of that training of only 3 hours. But as I understand, as I listen, this information that you provided, I'm sure will be useful, not only interesting, but also useful for all the participants and representatives of municipal governances. So thank you, Dorin, and we expect for the question from the floor. So please feel free to ask the questions.
I don't think I was so clear. Yeah. So
Yeah, you were. The way is not about that people do not understand, so maybe they understand everything, and no question because of high quality of presenting.
well, thank you, but well, you can contact me through email. I will put on chat my email if okay. So it's
I will just make the announcement that the recording of that meeting will be available on the resources of Smarter for EU project, and on the official page and social media of our association Energy Efficient Cities, together with some contact information of you, Dorin. So if somebody will have some professional questions, so as you said, please feel free to contact, to use the possibility to ask some additional questions, and review the recording to find the things which you found most interesting in this presentation.
Yeah, because from time to time I'm contacted by city council from Romania, especially when it's tender, because there's a lot of discussion about what it's mentioned or what should not be mentioned. And yeah, it's free advice. It's not something that I'm trying to find a job here, because unfortunately in East Europe it's no chance to become a lighting consultant, because everybody is looking for free advice. But I can give you free advice. I have my ideas, and it's interesting because it's the way I receive a lot of information. Yeah. Also, if you want about European Energy Award, yeah, about Romanian experience and implementing this system in Romania, which didn't went well at the beginning, but now it's getting better, and yeah, we have quite a good number of cities joining the European Energy Award, which I recommend you to do in Ukraine. It's a good system, and because it's bottom up. I mean, it was not done by some research institute or some bureaucrats. It's done by people who really work with city council, and they had a lot of experience, and I found it as an excellent system done by Swiss.
Yeah. We as the association are working for European Energy Award. So we work closely with some municipalities. As I understand, we have among the participants some municipalities which are already in European Energy Award. So this is a really good instrument, very good instrument to overview the whole sustainable energy in your community. So we are working in this field, and thank you, Dorin. For everyone, I want to reply that Dorin provided his email in chat, so please take this email.
There are 30 municipalities participating in Ukraine.
They were asking that someone from Romania, which is the name of association, to have us access to the recording. Where you will put the recording.
Please look at the Facebook, in the internet, Association Energy Efficient Cities of Ukraine. So we will
Maybe if you
publish
can write it on the chat, it can be easy.
Yeah, I will write.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. The PowerPoint. I send to my colleagues from Ukraine the PDF version, which feel free to. Yeah, that's no.
Great. So we will share also your presentation.
Yeah.
So we have lots of messages on chat with thanks. So maybe on that stage we can say that our training completed successfully. So one more thanks to you, Dorin. And if no questions, please find the recording. Please feel free to contact Dorin and association and our project Smart4EU for more information. And we are looking forward to see you on our next courses, which shall do it for November. So the next one will be in 2 days, November 16, and we will talk about sustainable site selection for the needs of green building. Also very interesting topic, and looking forward to see you on our next meetings. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dorin.
Thank you for the invitation. All the best. Well, okay. Looking to meet in person in one day. I'm sure it will happen. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.